Welcome to Cultivating Resilience, a podcast from Cultivemos, the network for farmer well-being. I'm Hans Hageman.
And I'm Kay-Megan Washington. Cultivating Resilience is all about the intersection of farming and mental health. We cover everything from financial planning to community building, all with an eye towards practical advice.
We explore personal strategies for stress management and the systemic issues underlying those stresses, because all of those things contribute to mental health.
For the podcast, we have wide-reaching conversations with some incredible farmers and farm advocates, but we can't always fit the whole interview into a podcast episode. So we've created videos of our discussions so we can share even more with you.
We hope you enjoy this interview and get something from it. And if you'd like to learn more about Cultivemos or listen to the podcast, we've put some links in the description below. Until next time, stay grounded. How would you introduce yourself?
I would say peace and blessings. Islam. I am TemuAsyr Martin Bey, urban agroecologist, fashion designer, consultant. I'm just from Westside Compton. I'm just a dude who also is a chef and just came from here, from Compton, and really put on for my city. And now I'm an ambassador, and I go represent my community, represent my culture, represent my people all over the state, all over the country, and internationally as well.
Now, with all the interest that you have, how did you put your bucket down in the world of farming and urban agriculture?
I'm a chef, right? That's the career I realized that could actually, be able to sustain me in life. So me and my brother, we created a plant-based catering company, Dedication Catering, dedicated to our community to be able to make sure that we're providing fine dining food and being able to change the narrative of Compton. And with that, my teacher, Dr. Sheridan Ross, he's built over 50 community gardens and over 20 gardens all around schools, all around LA County. So he essentially let us know, like, hey, your generation, you all need life skills. And we began to really want to utilize fresh picked organic food in our catering company. We watched this show, Top Chef France, man, and this chef, he was getting food from his farmer, serving it at his restaurant. It was just so cool. So we want to start doing that, right? And growing food and serving that to our community. But then once we took it the next step and wanted to learn how to grow food, and we started growing the food ourselves and then serving that food, that definitely just skyrocketed us. I had the opportunity to move to Oahu, Hawaii, and work at a grocery store as a deli assistant manager. But I also lived next to a community garden, and this community garden was very strict. I mean, they had a long waiting list. They had a long list of things you had to do, and it made me take community gardens more serious. So when I had the opportunity to come back to California and open up a restaurant, I saw the condition of the Compton community garden. There was a possibility that the community garden might be sold, the land itself. So the fiscal sponsors, they just essentially kind of take a step back and reassess. And we just decided, you know what, despite whatever might happen with the actual land, we're going to make sure that this space is readily available, and we're going to make sure this space is a staple in our community. So we came together, we created a board, we got it going, we got it redeveloped. And the pandemic hit, and when the pandemic hit, we all came together, my teacher, other members from the community, we revolutionized the garden, we innovated the garden, and that sent me on a whole new trajectory in life, But it starts from food. It starts from growing food, cooking food, providing food, and wanting to just be a resource to the community.
Now, you mentioned Compton, and you mentioned a teacher and that original inspiration. But you also had friends who helped you with that whole project and down the line. Are you a unicorn in that respect? And I'm asking selfishly because I'm trying to do some community garden pieces down here in the Mississippi Delta. What got you to latch on to that? Was that just in your nature, or was there something else? And your friends, life skills. Tell me about that conversation. Tell me about that process, because it sounds like you picked stuff up and just kept running.
Fortunately, I'm not a unicorn. Fortunately, I have a great upbringing. Long live my father, Dwayne Martin, who raised me well. My mother raised me well. I grew up in church. I grew up out the way. Me and my friends, we stay out of trouble, right? I had intelligent friends. We come from the hood, but we definitely banded together. I have older brothers who stayed on my head. I have a lot of people in my community who knew that essentially I'm a good kid and I got to stay out of trouble. Even my teacher, Dr. Sheridan Ross, he definitely mentored me and kept me out of trouble since I was a teenager. And so my friends, we all definitely have similar interests. We all have created our own nonprofit where we actually build community gardens and we consult community gardens as well. And we also, work together catering. So definitely it's been a group effort. It's definitely been me, my friends coming together, and other people who care. One of my big bros named Elo, he's into the more science, and he definitely educated me on, my indigenous roots and how to be more tapped into the earth and have a more of a spiritual connection with earth. Uh, Other stakeholders in Compton who just say, hey, like we know this space is a green space, it's a community garden, and we want to come together and just make sure that we can offer things for our community. So me, I'm like I was telling Andrew, I'm what we call ADD, ADHD, right? So yes, I pick up things and go, and I'm just actively always moving, always doing a whole lot of things. But I have support and I have people who allow me to do that, but also are able to hold me accountable and reel me in, right? My friends are not my yes man. Where none of us are yes man. We have in-depth conversations, and it really just came from, like I said, we really just look at the garden when I came back from Hawaii, and we just said, hey, like, what if we do it? What if we are the ones who just take over? What if we just not take over, but essentially keep it going, right, and keep it open to the community? This was before the pandemic happened. We didn't know that they were going to shut everything down like everybody else. But we said, hey, this is a space that means something to us. This is something that we know we have a connection to. We're starting this nonprofit where we want to get involved and want to teach holistic ways and want to teach, connect people to earth. So, hey, what better way to start than with what we already have and develop what we already have and learn how to do this while we're actively in a space that's already established, while we build another community garden in the city of Ridgecrest, and while we are learning more about our catering company. And that as well, the fact that we already had a plant-based catering company in Compton, we already had a relative baseline of people who were aware of what we were doing, right? Like, there's no other fine dining plant-based catering company in Compton. And I've been doing this for years, right? We've been serving kale salads and Swiss chard salads for years within the city. So when we took over the garden and we worked with elders and worked with the community, it wasn't like a big disconnect, right? It was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. We already were actively working with the garden. We already were actively in the community, actively pushing, eating healthy and eating for your body, your mind, your spirit. So it was just a great next step, and it all came together. And it definitely was just us saying, what if we do it? Let's just try. Let's just do it.
It sounds like a lot of great energy and a great product came out of it. Now, part of it too is you seem to bring a sense of style and fashion to your work in the garden. Can you talk a little bit more about where the arts fall into this and fashion and style?
As a child, I used to get in trouble for drawing shoes all day, right? I always wanted to be a designer. My first career I wanted to do was be a shoe designer. That was what I wanted to do since I was a child. I love art. I love drawing. And when I began to learn more of the spiritual connection to design and engineering, right? And understanding that there's a reason I have a very creative and innovative mind and I have all these ideas. It's not a negative thing. So I began to hone it in and actually be able to turn this into something that I could bring to the world, and also a way for me to it's my own meditation. Like even me creating my own art is what calms me down. So I'm very mindful of doing art to be able to have my way of recharging my battery and to be able to get quiet, but also to be able to express myself, and express what I like, my interests, numerology. I like, ancient Kemetic Egyptian concepts. I love the science of the ancient Egyptian sciences and the Meta Nature. So I love to communicate that even in fashion, where you might not know what I'm telling you, but I know what I'm telling you just from my jacket, and I love my Native American roots. My grandparents are Choctaw and Creek, so I love to communicate that through art. I love to just communicate and expression myself through of course, gemstones. It's all fashion. And I think I'm from LA. We get fly. We put it on. We've been putting on the sauce. We've been doing this. It ain't no, what I'm saying? I'm from LA. I'm really out here with the fashion. So why not combine all of that? And even when we grown food, why not make grown food fly? Especially our generation. To me, it's up to us to be that bridge, right? To be able to say, how do we make sure that the next generation gets involved in farming, gets involved in agriculture, and you gotta look fly. It has to be appealing. If people don't aren't appealed by it, if there isn't something that catches the eye, um, they'll be like, man, you're lame. It's just how it goes. So definitely being artistic and me being fashionable has definitely been a part of my success as well because it's able to be an icebreaker. It's able to help me stay calm, and it's able to communicate in a manner where it hits your subconscious mind. It's a science and a spiritual system to it as well.
You're reaching out to people at that level, and it seems that you also have like a kind of 10,000-foot view where you're interested in creating beyond Compton a more just food system for BIPOC farmers and eaters. Can you speak more to that vision and those goals?
I'm always been big vision. I've always been grand scheme of things. I've always been, what are we going to do 100 years from now? What is the legacy? And as I begin to inform and educate myself around California agricultural industry and the USA's agriculture industry, and really begin to understand the budgets, understand the institutions, understand the way laws work, understand the way grants work, understand the way our budgets work, to really understand the infrastructure in the industry, and especially understand the foundation of land and how that is just the foundational element of wealth building, of health, that I was able to want to communicate that and be involved. And fortunately, I was able to be a part of the greater conversation on the state level for the work that I have done that started here. And I can't forget here, but definitely accepting the mantle, accepting the new lane that I'm in now, where now I do work on a state and on a national level. And embracing that. I'm still here in my city, and they might not see me every day anymore, but I'm still here because I'm doing so much advocacy work, and I'm embracing it and I'm enjoying it. Working with the town of Allensworth, I'm helping to be able to outreach and helping to be able to bring more people who want to become farmers and allowing them to say, hey, this is an opportunity for you. If you want to go become a farmer, there's a place you can become a farmer. I'm working with Sacramento and Yolo County. We're collecting other farmers who are saying, hey, we need to make sure that our black farmers have access to land and our black farmers can come together, and our black and indigenous farmers as well, and our people of color farmers as well, our Hispanic farmers, our Asian farmers, all of our farmers, where we make sure that it's okay for us as black Asiatic people to say we need something for us as well, but we want to make sure we are inclusive, and not be hide that we want to make sure that we take care of us too, in this climate. But also working with California Farmer Justice Collaborative, which is a collection of farmers all over California who have actually created laws and created bills and are still actively working on that relationship with the California Department of Agriculture. So yeah, I do a lot of things on the state level, also part of National Young Farmers Coalition Land Fellowship, which is educating us on the Farm Bill itself and advocating for land to be put in the Farm Bill. How do we ensure that we make sure there is money designated for young BIPOC farmers to purchase land? And how do we inform ourselves on these different programs of the USDA? The USDA is the second biggest department in our country. So how do we develop that report? How do we understand it? And also, how do we understand our political infrastructure? What do our congressmen and women do? What do our senators do, right? A lot of us, I come from the hood. We aren't really educated and informed on like what is the farm bill itself. So informing myself, educating myself, working with farmers all over the nation, working with farmers all over the state, right? Bringing what we bring in LA, do we bring that to the state and also bring out the state back to LA as well, and just kind of making a synergy of all of this. And still, as I go around, I'm still LA. So when I'm in DC, I'm still looking like LA. When I'm in Sacramento, when I'm in Allensworth, I'm still looking like LA. I still got that sprinkle, we still got that sauce, but ultimately, like, yeah, there's a lot going on, and I'm just very um, fortunate and focused on embracing this new role of being able to build a bridge, right? It's not that I'm bigger than my city or I'm more important than my city by no stretch. I'm an ambassador of my city. I'm a proof of my city. I come from my city, and being able to go now, create networks where now we have pipelines where people from our community have access to all over the state of California, have access to so much information, and being able to formalize that so that way now us urban farmers, we know how to tap in with the CFA, we understand how to access the USDA programs. And even the USDA and the CFA learning more about urban farming, and we're actually developing, they're developing the whole new urban agricultural systems and being very much a part of those conversations as well. And when I'm in these spaces, represent my community as best as I can, and then bring that back to my community and say, hey, this is what's going on, this is information, these is what's happening moving forward, and how do we make sure that we're prepared, and then we make sure that we inform and educate our elected officials and our institutions as well.
People who get a piece of land, whether it's out in some remote rural area or an urban garden, and they put their heads down and they just produce what they can. You've added another layer to it in terms of the advocacy and political work. What has been your biggest surprise in terms of working, technically in the system, in that political arena?
My biggest surprise, number one, is how much I enjoy it and how much I've realized I've been prepared for it, right? I grew up in a very conservative household and a very liberal environment. So I've always seen the best of both worlds, right? I've always been objective to politics, which made me want to not be involved in politics because I was so objective to it. But now that I'm in it, I still have an objective mind where I'm able to not be so swayed in people's agendas and people's, preferences. I'm able to say, this is what we're here for. We're advocating for this. And if you align with what we're advocating for, land, resources, redistribution of wealth, redistribution of equity, equity is what I'm here for. And I'm not getting too pulled into everybody else's conversations, right? This is what we're here for. And also, I'm really learning that it is up to us to inform our elected officials and educate our elected officials on the agriculture industry. Everybody doesn't come from farming. Everybody doesn't learn what the agriculture industry is. And we can't go into these conversations when we are asking for assistance and we're asking for our elected officials to champion us with any condescending notions or any I'm smarter than you, or why don't you know this, or anything. They represent us, and it is up to us as well to do the best we can to inform, to educate, to have genuine dialogue, to truly say, hey, as our officials, this is what we want. And also learning the ways of being able to put things on the California budget. We've been successful of actually allocating resources from the state budget. We've been successful of actually working with the Strategic Growth Council. We've been successful of actually having lobbyists and really going through the process of having ideas turn into working groups, turn into bill language, turn into actual implementation on multiple levels. So me embracing the process and being okay with this is not going to take 3 days, right? This is going to take years. And even when we do get this one thing, we still might have to make sure we double back and secure it next year. And we still might have to make sure that we're still going to, as we get this one step, what are the next two steps, right? And we might not get everything we asked for, but what we did get, hey, what can we do with what we did get? And how do we make sure we implement these laws and implement these bills and implement these budget items and be essentially effective and efficient with our state's resources and our country's resources, while also putting things in place to continue to advocate for the things we didn't get. So it's really just helping me with being step, 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 and then also keeping a bit longer, bigger vision, and also accepting a mantle of I'm in this very rare space where I have the ability to have access to all the information, and I have to make sure I communicate the information and not be a gatekeeper, but be a key holder. One of my good friends, he said, Timo, you're not a gatekeeper, you're a key holder. And I've really embraced it. Like, it's not, I don't want to have the information say, look at me with all this information, look at me with the CFA, the USDA. No, 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 no. I'm here because I'm come from this and I'm representing us, and I want to make sure that we all have access to this. And whoever wants to have access to it, great. If you don't, I know farmers and urban farmers who say, hey, I don't really want to get involved in all of that stuff. I just want to grow some food. By all means. I know some farmers who say, hey, I want to learn more about advocacy. Come on, let's go. Right. So in these spaces, really doing the best I can to stay humble, but also to embrace it and keep the bravado. Keep when I'm in these spaces, don't be timid. When I'm in these rooms, don't be timid. Have a presence, be confident. But it's been a lot of just education and informing and learning how to be more formal and more diplomatic, you know, and embracing what comes with this awareness and these accolades and these resources. Just a lot of just it's new, there's a lot of newness.
Timo, you talked about education and information and being a purveyor and a provider of those things. With regard to system-wide obstacles, what do you observe as the biggest obstacles to making progress in the direction you want to go?
The biggest to me is land, the inequities of land. There is 95% of land owned by one social status, and then there's 5 to 2% of land owned by other social statuses, right? And that is what that is. That's objective. That's not how I feel or how anybody feels. That's what's actually happening. And that is extremely inequitable because the foundation of any type of progression, any type of wealth building, any type of community development, any type of healing, any type of reparations, any type of rematriarching, any type of justice, any type of equity, the foundation of it is land, stability, and then resources with that land. So until we really repair that, and that's we're actively doing that, which is why me and other stakeholders from the state of California came together to create the California Land Agricultural Task Force, right? To be able to bring people together to fix the problem. We don't have an answer to that problem. We need people who are going to specialize and come together and then have those people be resourced and then have those people take the time to find those answers. Because none of us have the answers, which is why land access is so inequitable. Which is also why I joined National Young Farmers Coalition Land Fellowship, because it's not limited to California. It is a national thing. It is the strongest weapon of institutional racism, of systemic oppression, is not having access to land at scale, right? At scale, and having those resources to be developed and to be implemented. And so we need land. We need land, number one. We need to be more involved in our political infrastructure and not just voters, not just picking the elected officials, but informed and involved on our institutions as well. And I'm seeing that disconnect, right? Of like most of us don't really know what are the offices of the USDA, right? What is the USDA? What does that mean? What is the FSA? What is the NRCS, right? What does our institutions actually do, right? On a national and on a state level. So that information has been hidden as well. Most of the stakeholders, most of the commissions and the committees are not people from our communities, from our cultures, from our diasporas. So we are left out of the overall conversations of the decision making process itself, right? And then that's also tied into language, right? America is not just English speakers. English is, yeah, our universal language, definitely, quote unquote. Now, but the reality is when you only have information in English, you gatekeep, right? So you cut off a lot of people. And then, of course, the finances and the resources, not only the money, but the resources, where to go, how to go, who to tap into, how do we get these things done? So it's really just the number one is land, but then we have to make sure that we are a part of the conversation, we are part of the decision making, and we are informed and educated on it. And then we have to make sure that we make this distribution of information equitable. And then we have to make sure that we are actually resourced to be able to do the work, to be able to do the implementation. Because when we have land, you really can't even engage with certain aspects of our agriculture industry without owning land. There are actual parts of our agriculture industry where you won't be able to even get a loan or sign a thing or get any engagement if you don't own that land, right? You can rent that land and lease that land, and you won't be able to get certain things, right? So, and us not having land, being confined to these urban environments, we don't even really have any motivation to want to go get rural land. You know, we like our urban environments. And even in our urban environments, there's still so many empty plots. There's so much empty abandoned land in our urban environments where we could be growing more community gardens, more green spaces, things of that nature, you know. So we got to fix the land part, honestly, we really do.
Some of the things that you just talked about apply to your role as an urban agroecologist. But I've also heard you describe yourself as a food system advisor. When you put on that hat, are there skills in addition that you've talked about that people need if they're going to be successful in this new world that you envision?
Yeah, definitely business skills, definitely the skills of diplomacy. That is a skill we have to learn. The skill of ethical business, the skill of learning how to be moral, the skill of learning how to conduct yourself ethically is very much needed when we talk about the food system. The skill of diplomacy, the skill of delegation, right? The skill of working co-ops, of I don't have to be the guy at every meeting. I don't have to make the most amount of money possible. I don't have to be the lead at this. There are parts of this whole food system that in this arena, she's in charge. In this arena, he's in charge. In this arena, he's in charge. In this arena, guess what? They do have more resources, so they're going to have to be in charge, right? In this arena, you know what? You're right. They're going to have to be the ones who fiscally sponsor this project. In this arena, we're going to have to work with our schools. We're going to have to work with our different political, elected officials. The skill of learning how to be genuine. Like these are skills to me. We have to learn these things. Nobody teaches us ethical business, right? We have to go to school to learn how to do ethical business. Nobody teaches us money management. We have to actually go learn it. We have to actually learn how to work together. Like we don't just wake up and know how to work together. We think we do, right? We genuinely believe we do. But in this food system, we have to embrace our political infrastructure. Even if we don't like it, we have to embrace it and make the change we want to make. We have to embrace our political infrastructure. We have to embrace our institutions. We might not like how our institutions are doing. Yes, our institutions have been racist. They have already acknowledged it. But we can't turn a blind eye from my vantage point, right? This is how I see it. We can't turn a blind eye to our institutions. Um, we can't just be anarchists. I don't agree with the whole anarchy thing. I don't agree with the whole down with the system. I don't agree with that. This is America. We don't like America, but I love living here and I'm proud to be here. I have Choctaw and Creek lineage. This is a land I was born on. This land my forefathers was born on. This land my roots. I come from this land, so I embrace it. And for me, when we don't embrace it, then we allow other people to run our resources. So embracing the land, embracing the different dynamics of our system, political implementation, the private sector, the actual community engagements, the outreach, the communications. Right, I'm really embracing the communications aspect of this. Right, coming from LA, we have the ability to tell the story. Right, we movies, directors, podcasts, media. That's LA. So us in LA, I embrace that, and it's been able to be helpful on the state level. So finding your niche, the skill of finding where do you fit in, and being okay with discovering that, right? And like, how can you be best to serve? Coming to the table, wanting to serve, coming to the table, not just put your hand out, coming to the table, saying, how do we collectively address these issues? And then learning these different skills to be able to make sure that we do things the moral way, because morality is everybody. Ethics is you and how you do within internal, right? We have to learn our ethical ways. We have to develop ethical skills. But morality is, hey, this is affects people around me, right? So how do we learn these skills? So I'm going to learn morality so I can learn ethics so that way we can all work together and we can create actual equity. to where it's not just extreme rich and extreme poor, but it is relatively, we all live in a cohesive manner, sustainable, healthy, just not necessarily utopia and in paradise, but not extremes, not too extremes.
I like that, and it resonates with me. I think it's interestingly in some circles. I think some of the things that you're talking about in terms of what to me sounds like personal responsibility, self-efficacy, self-discipline, some of those things are things that a lot of people turn away from and talk about the system being the thing that needs to get fixed first. It sounds like you're saying something different or a yes and. Is that right?
The system is employees at the end of the day. The system is people who have jobs, right? Laws create bills, distribute resources that go to institutions, that distribute resources to organizations. They're all just people at the end of the day. Some of the people who run these institutions are unethical, definitely. Some of the people who run these political infrastructures are unethical and immoral, definitely, right? Some of our foundational elements of how do we get here, it has been unethical, extremely. There's no way around. I'm not the racist. Racism extremely exists and it's extremely evident, which is how we got to this inequitable aspect in the first place. Now, with that being said, what are we going to do about it? Now, if we don't figure out how do we make sure we don't repeat these cycles, then these systems that are put in place will continue to put out the same unethical, immoral results because we haven't approached it with how do we get in here with the new skills of learning how to do this ethical and moral. Because I'm a millennial, right? There will soon come a time where we can't blame our parents and our grandparents anymore, right? There will soon come a time when we can't blame baby boomers. You know what I'm saying? Like, there will soon come a time when we will be the ones running the world. Who are we going to be pointing to and be blaming it then? Like my grandfather died, my grandmother died, my father died, my mother's alive, and essentially we have to take care of our mother, like support her, not necessarily take care of her, but like we have to make sure she's good. Like there will soon come a time when us millennials are going to be the 40, 50, 60-year olds. We're going to be the presidents. We're going to be leaders of the corporations. We're going to be leaders of our institutions. Are we prepared to run the world? And if we don't, for me, like I'm saying, let's be prepared to run the world because it's going to happen, whether we do it intentionally or not. This is how life works. Every generation has their moment. So I just want to make sure my generation is prepared for the moment of like, hey, this is our first time growing up. I get it. We never grew up before, but soon we're going to be the ones who's in charge of our whole political infrastructure, our private infrastructure, our whole industrial complexes. Are we prepared for that? So that's what I advocate for. Like preparing to learn how to run things at a very, very, very high level. I want to be ready for if I'm running the CDFA one day, I want to be ready. If I'm running a multi-billion dollar corporation one day, I want to be prepared for what comes with that, right? And not just be spending all my 20s and 30s and 40s pointing at what my grandparents and my parents' generation did.
So some of the virtues that you seem to embody are, come from, well, they're world wise, but also stoic in terms of courage and wisdom. The other thing though that comes across is zest and the energy to pursue this vision that you're talking about. And the zest that comes across from you as we're talking, where does it come from? And even more importantly, or just as importantly, how do you maintain it in the face of all the things that need to get done?
That's a great question. Where does it come from? The artistry in me, the artist, right? I have the Green Lantern tattooed on my finger, right? You feel with the Green Lantern, right? His superpower is whatever he wills, he can turn it into reality. Now, your willpower is bringing your heart and your mind on the same page. If you feel it and you think it and they both on the same page, you can turn it into physical reality. The hero is the Haru, right? The Haru is the willpower. If you look at every superhero, they all face catastrophic big L's. And then Usually the love of something, right, is what boosts their willpower and they get over the obstacle and then they defeat the enemy, right? That's the story has been here for thousands of years, right? Even the story of, Horus, Set, Osiris, right? So my name, TemuAsyr, Osir is essentially Osiris, right? Osir is a king, right? And a king doesn't mean you rule with an iron fist. A king essentially means you understand the resources and you delegate and you use the resources the right way at a high level. The foundation of it is agriculture, right? We always have a saying, agriculture is the foundation of civilization. Until we can learn how to work with this thing we call nature, right, and develop some type of cohesive relationship with it, then we can create some kind of structure and begin to flow with it. So for me, the the foundation of it is who I am, right? TemuAsyr. Understanding that I'm here to honor God. I'm here to honor Allah. I'm here to honor the Creator. The best way to honor it is to try to implement it and be it, and to be a creator, to use this imagination, use this willpower, to accept that the enemy is my own disbelief, my own doubts, my own fears, my own anxieties. That's the enemy. That's the biggest enemy. It's my own limited beliefs, the habits, the unethical behavior, right? You know what I'm saying? Those are the ultimate foe. If I can overcome those things, then I can become a king. And I truly believe that. Now, what keeps me going, definitely my family, my friends, my support system. I love the work I do. Does it become overwhelming at times? Of course, right? Of course, it becomes overwhelming. Of course, because I do have such a creative mind. Sometimes some of the mundane things, as the emails and the phone calls and the follow ups and all these different things, I don't want to do them sometimes. But then that's when the willpower of, hey, do you want to be this leader you say you want to be? There's a lot of administration that comes with being a leader. There's a lot of administration that comes with being a CEO. There's a lot of administration that comes with being a king and a president. You say you want to do that. Okay, you can't just do the cool ideas. You can't just do the fly saucy things. You have to sit down and respond to these emails. You got to make sure you're on these meetings on time. You have to do the ethical behavior because that's what's going to separate me. Doing the day-to-day things. So what keeps me going is seeing the outcomes of doing these day-to-day things, right? Knowing that I'm advancing, I'm advancing, I'm seeing I'm advancing, I'm seeing, hey, these things that I actually thought I could do, I'm actually doing them. Hey, there are people who are impacted by the work I do. And hey, there are people who I've been able to bring with me who are also impacted. And it's much, much bigger than me. Like back to all seer, right? It is much, much, much bigger than me, my ego, my emotions, what I think. But it starts with that, and I have to embrace both. Like the grander scheme is like, yes, I'm on a national level. My community also sees me. I know people are watching me. Like I'm still in Compton, right? I'm not like over here doing these things. I gotta go back home. I gotta go back to my family. I gotta go back to the hood. You know what I'm saying? So that reminds me of like, yo, like check that out the door. Like do your work, go do it, go make these bridges, go build these bridges, go build this empire. But I gotta come back home. I gotta look these people in their face, and that keeps me steady and that keeps me humble and that keeps me motivated because it's a lot to get done and I'm seeing it. I'm building the bridge between LA, Central Valley, Sacramento, Washington, D.C. I'm seeing these things that people thought I couldn't do or people didn't really thought was important that it is. I mean, even me and my bro were our first catering company, right? When we decided to go plant-based, people were like, "You're gonna fail." People told us, "You're gonna have a vegan catering company? Like that's crazy." Now everybody's vegan, pretty much, right? Now it's a part of our society. But I've embraced and accepted. I see the future, and I have to accept it in its own manner. Like I'm innovative, so some of the things I do might not make sense. A lot of the things I do, it might not make sense until 3 years from now. Some of the things that people are starting to see from me now are things I literally said I could do in 2019. But it took all that time for it to come into fruition. But if I continue to willpower, I can take anything I imagine into reality.
You have clarity around what the things that need to get done, and even better, you do them. What do you love most about the work that you do?
I love that It's real. It's real. It's not fluff. I might not have the most Instagram followers, right? I might not have the most accolades. I might not have the prettiest women, you know, but like we're really actively creating laws, bills, organizations, development, rebuilding communities, expanding organizations. I know that the work I'm doing is really making a difference. Like I see it. Like I'm actively seeing it. Like even yesterday, one of my tasks was to make a list of all the flood resources in California and distribute those lists on social media. That's a real thing, like letting people on the state know how do they get support during these storms. That is more important than what anybody feels about me or anybody thinks about me or what people or how cool I am or you know what I'm saying. Like I know the work I'm doing is real, and that's what's ultimately the most gratifying. Um, because I know that I'm really doing the work. Like I know people, we have a phrase like check the paperwork, right? Shit, you can check my paperwork, you can check my resume, you can check my body of work, and you can see that like I'm not capped, right? I'm not just out here just selling you wolf tickets. I'm not out here just saying, look at me. We have done way too much work and we are still doing way more work for anybody to ever play with me. You know what I'm saying? I don't let people play with me. Like I don't have to walk in a room with the biggest ego, but like nah, you're not gonna play me because we got real work to do. So that's man, like I know we doing work, bro. Like I know we're doing work. I'm a part of multiple multi-million dollar projects. You know what I'm saying? And helping raise more money. We're working on really big things. This is California. This is one of the leaders in agriculture in the country. We're working on restoring Black, Indigenous, Latinx, Asian, people of color farming systems and creating equity within the agriculture industry, creating justice within the agriculture industry. I'm working on that every day. There's never a day that's going by that I'm not actively working on that, on the state and on a national level. So yes, the work we're doing is real. That's what feels good at the end of the day.
No, and I feel that realness coming from you. And I've got one last question, and that's a simple one, kind of. Is there something that I should have asked that I didn't that you'd like to answer now?
No, no, I think it speaks for itself. If anyone wants to learn more about the work I do, I'm sure you'll share, my socials or and the website, things of that nature, but I want people to feel the passion, feel the energy, feel the genuineness, and understand, like, if you want to come get some work done.
I think it's going to be hard for people to not feel that passion and that energy. And I really enjoyed this conversation. So thank you very much. Hope to see you on the path too.
My pleasure, my pleasure.